And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have everybody here on this Friday, January 19th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show and makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. So, I did say it yesterday, because it's Friday, we are going to be previewing all of the divisional round matchups for this weekend. There's 4 games, so 4 games, 4 segments. Each game will get his own segment. I'll give you my predictions on them and my picks as well. And that is what the show will be for today. I know there was no baseball show today. That'll be next Friday. So make sure to look out for that. So let's get right into the first game. And that is talking about the Texans and the Ravens. So that'll be the first game that gets us started on Saturday. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Baltimore. And I think I was listening to the local radio station here, and where I am, and they said that there is going to be some inclement weather on Saturday. So right now, at least I'm looking on CBS, weather's 26. It's going to be 26, and it shows the snowflake icon. So we could be seeing some bad weather there. And it's going to affect the game. Passing game, the wind also, I know that was another thing that was talked about. That's going to affect the passing game. And we did see C.J. Stroud and the Texans when they played against the Jets in bad weather. That didn't really fare well for them. So we got the Texans and the Ravens. So let's get to the actual game. So we got the Texans and the Ravens. These teams met all the way back in week 1, and the final score of that game was, I believe, 25-9, because we did talk about it earlier in the week. So yeah, the final score was 25-9. We went through the stats. Lamar Jackson really didn't pass for a lot of yards. Stroud really didn't as well. But these teams are very different since the first week of the regular season. So we're going to see a different game, and especially if the weather's not good. So the Texans, they're coming in 10-7. On the regular season. The Ravens 13-4. Had that first round bye. They are 9.5-point favorites. The Texans are coming off of that blowout win against the Browns at home, winning 45-14. C.J. Stroud had a great playoff debut. And he's going to be going up against the Ravens defense. That's going to be banged up a little bit. I don't believe Marlon Humphrey is playing in this game. You also have Kyle Hamilton, who is banged up. Mark Andrews, I think, is going to play, so that's going to be big getting him back on offense. So, Devin Duvernay, he's expected to return as well, even though I don't think he's really going to factor that much. I mean, I guess, on special teams. But yeah, Marlon Humphrey, so he is ruled out for the divisional round against the Texans with the calf injury. So that's a big loss there. That is a big loss for the Ravens defense. So, we'll see if they're able to exploit that, the Texans. To kind of look at the comparison of the two teams, looking at the league rankings, again, looking at this on the CBS app. So the Texans actually 5th in passing yards per game. Ravens are 21st. Ravens are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. Texans are 22nd. Points per game, the Ravens are 4th. The Texans are 13th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Ravens are 8th, giving up 218.6 passing yards per game. The Texans are 25th. Rushing yards per game, the Texans are giving up an average of 96.6 rushing yards per game, which is 6th. And the Ravens are 14th, giving up an average of 109.4. And then points allowed, the Ravens defense is number 1 in the NFL, and the Texans defense is 11th. So if the weather is bad, you're going to have to rely on the running game. And Devin Singletary for the Texans has done well for them in certain games, since he's kind of taken over as that lead running back over Dameon Pierce. but you kind of favor the Ravens running game over the Texans. And also, Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be playing in this game. So you also have to factor that in as well. We'll see how he looks with the Ravens, because obviously with the Jets, it just wasn't a good fit. Really wasn't getting a ton of carries. And when he did, he really just didn't do much with his playing time. And that's why the Jets elected to let him go and go to a contender. And now he's a Raven to go along with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. So, yeah, I kind of favor the Ravens running game over the Texans. But that's going to have to, if the wind is a problem, if the weather's a problem, and they're going to have to run the ball, you're going to favor the Ravens. And again, when C.J. Stroud played against the Jets, it wasn't a good game for him, and that was in bad weather. So, and I would say the Texans are a different team when they're at home as opposed to when they're on the road, because they also did lose to the Panthers on the road as well, which I still can't believe that. But yeah, but I don't want to keep talking negative about the Texans. The fact that they've gotten this far is unbelievable. Credit to them, credit to their coaching staff, credit to C.J. Stroud. It's been a great season for them, and they're going to be a good team for a long time with Stroud at quarterback. And listen, there's pressure on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, because the last time they were the 1 seed, they did lose to Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, and they got some criticism for resting their starters, and they did the same thing this year against the Steelers, which allowed the Steelers to make the playoffs. So, yeah, there's some pressure on them to, kind of rewrite the wrong and win this game and get to the AFC Championship game, because if they win it, they're going to be hosting it. So, and I'm hoping, again, with all these games, hoping they're all good. This game, I think, can be good. I think the Texans will be competitive in this game. Again, these teams are very different from week 1. And Lamar Jackson still getting used to the new offense. C.J. Stroud obviously playing in his first NFL game. Now, this game's going to be different. I think the Texans will be competitive here in this spot, but I still like the Ravens to win, which is not a surprise. I just, I mean, again, anything can happen in these playoffs, and we've seen that, especially in the first round. But I just think here in this spot, and especially with the weather being a factor, I think the Ravens, they're going to pull this one out, and they're going to advance to the next round. But we'll see. If the weather holds up, which it doesn't really look like it, I mean, it could be close, but I think if this weather's going to affect the passing games for both teams, I'm going to favor the Ravens and their running game over the Texans. But we'll see. I mean, if the Texans defense, can they force turnovers? Obviously, it's going to be different from going against Joe Flacco to now Lamar Jackson, because now Lamar Jackson, he can move around. Joe Flacco really can't. So we'll see what their game plan is for this. But I think the Ravens, they should get this win. I think Lamar Jackson is motivated to get this, again, get this off his back, win a home playoff game. He does have a playoff win, of course. That was against the Titans back in the COVID season. But now you're the number 1 seed, and again, the last time you lost. Now he's going to try to rewrite the wrong, get it done, and win his first home playoff game now. And hopefully be in a position to host a AFC Championship game. So, yeah, with the bad weather, I don't really like that for the Texans. Again, Devin Singletary has run the football well for them at certain points during the year, but I think, if you have to make them one-dimensional and they're throwing in this bad weather, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But it's going to be a different game than it was in week 1. I just know that. So, but let me know what you guys think about this game. How do you see this game playing out? Again, it's kind of hoping that the weather isn't bad, so you could just see these two teams just, trading touchdowns. But, I mean, C.J. Stroud played really well in his playoff debut, but again, that was in Houston, and it was obviously weather was not a factor in the game. Now, if the weather is going to be a factor, we'll see, how it goes for him, because we go back to the game against the Jets really quickly, and again, I don't want to I don't want to talk negative about what C.J. Stroud's been able to do, because he can go out there and just light it up, even with the weather being as bad as it's going to be, as it seems. So Stroud went 10 to 20. Actually, I think he got hurt in the game too against the Jets as well. So yeah, he went 10 to 23, 91 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Got sacked 4 times. Yeah, it wasn't a good game. Bad weather conditions, and now you're going to be going up again, and that was against the Jets defense, which is a very good defense. But now you're going up against the Ravens, who are the 1 seed, and they got some injuries on defense now with Marlon Humphrey being out, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough matchup, but we'll see. He could prove us wrong. He definitely has done that, because a lot of people picked the Browns, and the Texans ended up winning. I mean, there were people that just thought the Texans really didn't have a chance, but I thought that game was going to be close, and it was for a little bit, and then the Texans pulled away. So, we'll see what C.J. Stroud does in this spot. It's going to be a different game than it was in Week 1, like I keep saying. And yeah, that'll get us started for divisional weekend. So I think the Ravens will win. I think the Texans will keep it close. I'm gonna say the final score. I want to be more on the lower side. I'm going to say the final score is 23-17. That's going to be my final score. I'm going to say the Ravens win 23-17, and they move on to the AFC Championship game. And I kind of need them to do that, because I have them going to the Super Bowl in my bracket, which the bracket's kind of busted up because the Cowboys I had going to the NFC Championship game, and they got knocked out in the first round. The Browns lost. The Rams lost. So, yeah, the bracket's not looking good. But the teams that I have going to the Super Bowl are still in it, and they're both playing on the same day. Because when we come back from our first break of the show, we're going to talk about the later game on Saturday, and that is the Packers-49ers game. Packers, the 7th seed coming in, and the 49ers, of course, are the 1 seed. And yesterday I went through the previous playoff matchups between these two teams. And now we're going to talk about the matchup for tomorrow night in more detail. So that's what we're going to do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.